Ayomide was a quiet, loving woman from Ibadan. She didn't have much, but what she had, she gave fully to her husband, Tolu. When they first got married, Tolu had no job, no direction, and no confidence. Many people whispered that Ayomide had made a mistake, but she never listened. Every day, she encouraged him. She helped him write job applications, practiced interviews with him late into the night, and reminded him of his worth when he felt useless. Even when they didn't have enough money, she found ways to support him, skipping her own needs to make sure he looked sharp for interviews. Ayomide believed in Tolu when he didn't believe in himself. Slowly, things began to change. Tolu got a small job, and Ayomide celebrated like he had become CEO. She made their home warm, peaceful, and full of love. She pushed him to dream bigger, to keep learning, to keep going. Over 8 years, Tolu went from jobless to a respected corporate manager. People around them started to praise him, forgetting the woman who helped build him. But Ayomide didn't mind. She smiled from the sidelines, proud of the man he was becoming. She thought they were growing together. She had no idea that the same man she lifted up so high might one day look down on her. Still, at that moment, she was just a proud wife, full of love, thinking they had finally made it. Ayomide had always dreamed of owning her own business. Since she was a little girl, she imagined running a cozy shop, building something she could call hers. When her father passed away and left her a small inheritance, she saw a chance to finally make that dream come true. She wanted to start small, maybe a fashion boutique or a food business. But then she looked at her life. Tolu, her husband, was still struggling to grow in his career. They had bills, responsibilities, and no real savings. So Ayomide did what she always did. She put her dreams aside for love. Instead of starting her business, she quietly reached out to a financial advisor and learned about silent partnerships. She didn't want attention. She didn't even tell Tolu. She decided to invest her inheritance in a promising new company called Makari Holdings Limited. It was still growing but had great potential. She became a silent investor, owning a majority stake without showing her face or name in public. Ayomide followed every board report, every update. She spent nights reading and learning about the business world, just so she could protect her investment. But she never mentioned a word of it to anyone, not even to Tolu. To him, it looked like Ayomide had let her dreams die. He never asked and she never complained. He didn't know that while she was building him up, she was also planting seeds for herself, just quietly in the shadows. While she ironed his shirts and packed his lunch, she was also checking market reports and profit growth. Everyone thought Ayomide was just a quiet housewife. No one knew she was part owner of one of the fastest growing companies in Nigeria. She gave up her dream. Yes, but only on the surface. Deep down, she was building something powerful, something that would later change everything. Ayomide believed in timing. And though she sacrificed what she wanted for the moment, she never gave up on herself. She just moved in silence. After years of struggle, Tolu finally got the big promotion he had been waiting for. It was everything he and Ayomide had prayed for, a managerial role in a top firm's Lagos branch. It came with a good salary, a nice office, and a chance to finally shine in the corporate world. Ayomide was overjoyed. She cooked his favorite meal the night he got the news, hugged him tight, and told him how proud she was. She helped him pack, reminded him to stay focused, and kissed him goodbye as he left for Lagos. They promised to call every night and visit each other often. At first, things were fine. Tolu would call in the evenings and tell her about his new office, the traffic in Lagos, and how different things were from Ibadan. But slowly, the calls became shorter, then less frequent. He would say he was too tired or busy. When Ayomide asked questions, he gave vague answers. Then he stopped picking up sometimes. She tried to stay calm. She thought maybe the new job was just stressful. Then he started coming home less often. Even when he visited, he was always on his phone, distracted, cold. He didn't laugh the same way. He didn't hold her like he used to. And he started talking a lot about his new boss, Mrs. Lindiwofori. Ayomide listened quietly as he described her. She's sharp, he would say. Very bold. Everyone respects her. There was admiration in his voice, too much. And something in his eyes had changed. Tolu, the man she helped build, was drifting. He was now spending more time with this powerful, charming CEO than with the woman who stood by him in silence for years. Ayomide felt something shifting, like a door slowly closing. She didn't want to believe it. But deep down she knew. Something wasn't right. The distance wasn't just physical. It was emotional. And it was growing. She had built a man who was now acting like a stranger. And in her heart, she feared the worst was yet to come. One quiet evening, while folding Tolu's clothes after one of his rare weekend visits, Ayomide noticed a small piece of paper in his shirt pocket. It was a hotel receipt, a fancy hotel in Lagos. The date didn't match any business trip he had mentioned. Her hands paused for a moment, her heart beating a little faster, but she said nothing. She placed the shirt aside and continued folding. A few days later, she was cleaning the living room when Tolu's phone buzzed on the table. He was in the shower. Ayomide never touched his phone before. She believed in trust, but something pushed her that day. She looked. There were late-night messages from someone saved as LO. They weren't work messages. They were full of playful words, sweet compliments, and even a photo of a wine glass with the caption "To us." Her hands shook, but she stayed calm. That same weekend, Tolu came home with a scent that wasn't his usual cologne. It was floral, soft, expensive, and definitely not hers. She noticed the small lipstick stain on his inner collar. Her chest felt heavy, but she didn't cry. Not yet. Ayomide didn't shout. She didn't accuse. She didn't even ask questions. Instead, she sat in silence with the truth sitting loud in her heart. The betrayal was no longer a guess. It was clear, sharp, and painful. The man she lifted, prayed for, sacrificed for, was now hiding pieces of his life from her. Most women would have confronted him immediately, but Ayomide didn't. She knew something deeper. She knew storms were better faced in silence, and sometimes, silence was stronger than screaming. Every day after that, she smiled when he called. She said "I love you" when he returned home. But inside, she was slowly preparing herself. Not for a fight, but for a shift. Because while Tolu thought he was being clever, Ayomide had already seen enough. She wasn't just heartbroken. She was watching, waiting, and quietly getting ready for what was coming next. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon when Tolu came home. Ayomide had cooked his favorite soup, arranged the table just like she used to when things were good between them. She wore the dress he once said made her look like the most beautiful woman in the world. She was trying, still hoping maybe he would come back to her fully. Maybe the distance, the late replies, the perfume. Maybe it was just a phase. She still wanted to believe in the man she loved. But as soon as Tolu walked in, something felt different. He didn't greet her with a smile. He didn't even look around the house. He just stood near the door, hands in his pocket, looking cold and distant. Ayomide, with a hopeful voice, asked, "How was your trip?" He didn't answer that. Instead, he looked straight at her and said the words that would break her heart into 1,000 pieces. "I've found someone better. She understands me." Ayomide froze. For a moment, the room felt like it stopped breathing. She stared at him, trying to understand if she heard him right. Tolu didn't look sorry. He didn't even try to explain. He said it like it was nothing. Like the years they spent together meant nothing. Then, without waiting for a response, he picked up his bag and walked out of the house, just like that. No tears, no goodbye, no explanation. Ayomide didn't scream. She didn't run after him. She sat down slowly at the edge of the chair and stared at the door he had just closed behind him. Her eyes were full, but no tears came. It was as if her heart was too shocked to cry. All the years she spent loving, helping, building this man. And this was how it ended. Not with a fight, not even with a goodbye kiss. Just 7 words and silence. But in that silence, something inside her shifted. Something strong. Because sometimes when a heart breaks quietly, something powerful wakes up. The house was quiet after Tolu left. Days passed, but Ayomide didn't fall apart. Her heart was heavy, yes, but she had cried all her tears in silence long before he spoke those final words. She didn't tell her family, didn't post anything online, and didn't chase after him. Instead, she did something unexpected. She opened her drawer, picked up her file of documents, and called her legal advisor. The woman who everyone thought was just a quiet housewife was now ready to step forward. She met with her lawyer in a small office in Ibadan. As she laid out her documents, her voice was calm but firm. She showed him everything: the investment contracts, the shareholder records, the silent partnership agreement. Then she looked up and said, "Macquarie Holdings? I own the majority." The lawyer sat back in surprise. All these years, Ayomide had kept it hidden, even from her husband. While he was busy shining in Lagos, thinking he had left her behind, she had quietly become the majority owner of the very company he now worked for. The same company where he was growing close to the CEO, Mrs. Lindiwofori, the woman he left her for. Ayomide didn't smile. This wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. It was about standing up for herself, finally. She wasn't just the woman behind the man anymore. She had power now, real power, and it was time to use it. Tolu thought he had traded up, but he had no idea that the company giving him all his dreams was actually built on her silent strength. She had stayed in the background long enough. Now she was ready to step into the light, not as a victim, but as the boss. The boardroom at Macquarie Holdings was full that morning. It was an important day, a meeting to discuss the company's future direction. Cameras flashed, investors were seated, and the energy in the room was high. At the front of the room stood Mrs. Lindiwofori, confident and glowing in her sharp suit. Beside her, smiling with pride, was Tolu. He stood taller than usual, dressed in his finest suit, holding Lindiw's hand like he had arrived at the top. Lindiw stepped forward, her voice smooth and bold. "Today," she said, "I'm proud to introduce someone very special, my partner in business and in life, Mr. Tolu Williams." The room clapped politely as Tolu nodded, clearly enjoying the spotlight. It was his moment. He had no idea what was coming next. Just then, the doors at the back of the room opened slowly. All eyes turned. In walked Ayomide, graceful, calm, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit, holding a black folder in her hand. The murmurs began. Some people recognized her, some didn't. But all could feel the shift in the air. She walked straight to the front, past the stunned faces, and calmly handed a document to the company secretary. "Please record the change," she said softly. "As of today, I am the new majority board chair." The room fell silent. Lindiw's smile dropped. Tolu blinked, confused. "What is this?" he asked. Ayomide turned to him slowly. "This company? The one that gave you a second chance? I've owned it. Quietly. Patiently. While you were busy pretending to be the king, I was becoming the queen." Gasps filled the room. Ayomide didn't need to raise her voice. Her presence said it all. She didn't need revenge. She came with truth, power, and silence louder than any scream. And in that moment everyone knew, she wasn't just the forgotten wife. She was the real boss. The room was frozen in shock. Lindiw stood stiff, eyes wide, trying to find words. Tolu looked like someone had knocked the air out of him. Shareholders whispered to one another, trying to understand what had just happened. Ayomide stood calmly at the head of the table, her hands resting gently on the folder she had brought. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The truth had already shaken the walls. She turned to look at both of them. Tolu, the husband who left her without a second thought, and Lindiw, the woman who thought she could steal someone's crown and wear it proudly. With steady eyes and a voice full of quiet power, Ayomide spoke clearly. "You betrayed me personally and professionally, and now you both lose." Gasps filled the room. A board member stood to speak, but Ayomide raised her hand gently and continued. "Tolu Williams, your services are no longer needed in this company. Effective immediately, you are terminated. Mrs. Ofori, you are relieved of your position as CEO. The board has already been informed, and the vote has passed." Lindiw's mouth fell open. "You can't do this," she said, almost in a whisper. Ayomide turned to her with a slight smile. "I already did." Tolu stepped forward, eyes full of panic, but he couldn't say a word. His voice, once so confident, had vanished. The shareholders sat in stunned silence. No one clapped. No one spoke. They all knew they had just witnessed something unforgettable. A woman wronged, not broken, who rose without shouting. Ayomide didn't come for revenge. She came for justice, for truth, for power she had earned in silence. She looked around the room one last time and said calmly, "This isn't just business. This is about respect. And today, respect returns to this company." Then she picked up her folder, turned around, and walked out, leaving the whole room speechless. And two broken people behind stepped out of the boardroom, the cameras flashed, and people stared in awe. News was already spreading like wildfire through phones and whispers about the calm woman who had just taken back everything with quiet strength. But just outside the glass doors, someone was waiting. Tolu. He looked completely different now. The proud, confident man who stood beside Linda minutes ago was gone. His suit looked too big on him, his eyes were red, and his hands trembled. As soon as he saw Ayomide, he dropped to his knees right there in the hallway. People around paused, watching the scene unfold. "Ayomide, please," he said, his voice breaking. "I didn't know. I messed up. I was stupid. I thought I was moving up, but I didn't realize I was stepping on the one person who held me up. Please forgive me." He reached out, hoping to touch her hand, his face full of shame, desperation, and regret. Ayomide looked at him. Not with anger. Not even with sadness. Just with a quiet strength. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply took a breath and said the words that would echo in his mind forever. "You left a queen for a title. Now you have neither." Then she turned and walked away. Her heels clicking gently on the floor, her head held high. Tolu remained on his knees, frozen, as people walked past him. No one helped him up. No one said a word. He had lost everything, not just his job, not just his position, but the woman who had loved him when he had nothing. Ayomide didn't look back. She didn't need to. Her silence was louder than his begging. And in that moment, everyone watching knew the truth. You don't throw away a queen and expect the crown to follow you. Within hours of the boardroom drama, the news spread like wildfire. Someone had leaked a short video clip. Ayomide walking into the meeting, calmly removing both Tolu and Linda from their positions, and walking out with quiet grace. Social media exploded. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Everyone was talking about the mysterious woman who shocked the corporate world. Blogs and news channels scrambled to get the full story. Headlines appeared everywhere. Silent investor turned scorned wife into corporate queen. She built him, he betrayed her, she took it all back. Ayomide's revenge without a word. People were in awe. Some called her a genius. Others called her the definition of quiet power. Women across Nigeria praised her strength, her calm, her class. What made the story even more powerful was the way Ayomide carried herself. No loud interviews. No online drama. Just quiet moves and bold results. Everyone wanted to know more, how she had invested in Makari Holdings, how she stayed silent while building her empire, how she turned betrayal into power. Even those who didn't know her name before now admired her. Young women called her a role model. Business experts called her a master strategist. Men everywhere were reminded not to underestimate a woman's silence. Because sometimes silence is where the real strength lives. Ayomide didn't ask for fame, but it found her. Not because she chased revenge, but because she chose dignity. And in a world where everyone wants to shout, she became a legend by simply walking away, in heels with power, and with her crown firmly on her head.